Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. Tyson Fury retains his WBC title, stopping Dillian Whyte in 6 rounds at Wembley Stadium in the United Kingdom. Dillian Whyte eats an uppercut near the end of round 6, his kryptonite punch. Tyson Fury hadn't really thrown it in the night, but he picked his moment, set it up with the jab, and Dillian Whyte hurt by that punch and a little bit of a help in terms of a shove to the canvas by Fury. But when he tried to get up to beat the count, all wobbly, trying to gather his senses, the referee's administering the count, Dillian Whyte gets to his feet, but then as he's coming forward, he starts stumbling to his left, and the referee, Mark Lyson, adjudged him not able to continue. And if he hadn't have stumbled, the fight may have continued because it was late in the round, and the stoppage was adjudged to be 2 minutes 59 into that 6th round. So Dillian Whyte's stumble cost him there, but obviously the heavy shot by Tyson Fury really rattled his senses, and he was finding it hard to get off the canvas and beat that count. So Tyson Fury, Dillian Whyte, this fight, it didn't really sort of catch fire in the way that some people were hoping for, but what we did see was Tyson Fury completely nullify Dillian Whyte through the height and the reach, and this was something that became pretty evident through the weigh-in, the weight that Fury came in, and some signals during the week. Fury was going to be back to utilize his height and reach, move a bit more, and try to really maximize those advantages. And that was key in this fight. The much shorter man in Dillian Whyte, there was 4 or 5 inches in height and also reach, unable to effectively close the distance for pretty much all of the fight. There was some decent body work that he was able to get away at times. He was trying to work, especially with the right hand to the body, and he was trying to sort of soften Fury up, slow him down. But for the most part, through his slow feet and his inability to close the distance, and Tyson Fury using that ring, Tyson Fury maximizing the distance, catching Dillian Whyte with jabs and also right hands as Whyte was trying to come in, he was able just to keep Whyte off him, keep him at bay for the most part, control the rounds for the most part. Not necessarily huge volume thrown throughout, and that actually I thought was probably going to help Whyte in terms of if the fight went later, because it wasn't a hectic pace. And towards the end of that 6th round, I thought actually when I was looking at Dillian Whyte, he's looking a little bit weary at this point. Certainly the mouth was sort of gaping, he was breathing heavy, but Tyson Fury able to match him for body shots, control him behind the jab, and just make it difficult for him to get away the best work that he wanted. He was coming in wildly at times and missing wildly for the most part. But the strategy to work to the body, I mean, it's hard to say how it would have paid off later in the fight had it continued. Hadn't he eaten that kryptonite shot of the uppercut, been dropped in multiple fights now, hurt in multiple fights with the uppercut, and Fury hadn't really thrown it in this fight. He obviously was looking for it, and when he got the opportunity, beautiful shot that landed, and certainly that was the beginning of the end. So I guess in terms of the fight itself, I thought it was entertaining, but maybe it wouldn't have entertained some fans in the way that they were hoping that it was going to be some sort of toe-to-toe war. But with that sort of being more in the wheelhouse for Dillian Whyte, Fury was never going to sort of, basically go, okay, well, we'll fight your fight. He fought his fight, except for maybe, I think it was round 4, where there was it round 3? One of those rounds where it was quite rugged, there was more inside action, there was more clinching, holding, and just all round rough and tumble, guys sort of using their elbows, heads, up on each other, really quite rough and rugged. That was more the sort of fight, if it continued that way, that was going to favour Whyte. But Fury, after that round, back at range, managing the distance mostly effectively and catching Whyte. And as we saw, he caught him with a very good uppercut. So I guess the question is, well, what's going to happen now for Tyson Fury? Because after the fight, there was the question asked to him repeatedly by the BT Sport interviewer, are you going to retire? And Fury basically sort of said, well, I promised my wife I was going to retire after the 3rd Wilder fight, then I had this opportunity. And he gave an answer that leaves the door open that he won't retire, but also suggests, well, it is a possibility. He said it might be the final curtain. But that's not exactly definitive, is it? And with the prospect of an undisputed fight potentially inside the next year, I think, he will wait and want to see what happens with that. And personally, I've never thought that he would retire. I don't think he would want to step away at this point where he's got this one belt. Someone else in the division, Alexander Usyk, has 3 of the other 4 main sanctioning body belts. There's a potential fight for undisputed that could be on the horizon. I think he will want to see where things go and how it plays out with a rematch with Joshua and Usyk whenever that's going to occur. Because Fury as well likes the legacy. He's made no secret of that. He wants to be regarded as the best of his generation. He says he is the best of his generation, and putting another win on his resume like this in Dillian Whyte, it certainly helps. And I know some people will say Dillian Whyte is a fighter who probably should have done better and didn't put up a good performance in this fight. But I think you also have to understand, against the guy in Tyson Fury with his skills, ability, just that height and reach differential was something that Whyte just couldn't, bridge the gap. He couldn't be as effective as he would have been against a smaller opponent. And he did, his feet in particular. He looked quite slow and flat-footed at times, and he was just falling short and wild, as we've seen in other fights. But that was because he was really trying to lunge in and get some hooks and right hands away. That looping overhand right, we maybe should have seen it a little bit more, but, the opportunity to throw it. One thing that was a surprise, I guess, early on was Dillian Whyte came out southpaw in the opening round. And I guess I should touch on that before we round out this video, because that was unexpected. I don't think he was particularly effective in that round. I think he's more effective as an orthodox fighter, but certainly gave Tyson Fury something to think about. And Whyte switched back to orthodox the next round, and that tempted Fury into turning southpaw for a brief period in that round. So I guess we'll have to wait and see what's going to happen with Tyson Fury. I think he'll keep us guessing, and sometimes that sort of intrigue keeps people just checking for him. They will want to see what happens. In terms of entertainment, this fight delivered in terms of the stoppage, maybe not in general. Dillian Whyte, where does he go from here? Because that's a question. He waited so long to get this title shot that he was after in the WBC route. He could have taken other avenues, was solely focused on going this route. He's got it, and he's been stopped. I mean, I think he will probably say that he was hard done by the stoppage, but he was the one that did stumble. He will probably say, look, Fury pushed me to the canvas, and yeah, maybe the referee should have admonished Fury for that. But it was clear it wasn't the push that was the thing that had him all shook up. It was the uppercut. He stumbled when he was up on his feet, and ultimately the ref felt he had no choice but to jump in. So Whyte, I think he can still be in some entertaining fights. I mean, if the matchups are more sort of favorable in terms of the height and the reach, he's a competitive fighter with a lot of heavyweights that are sort of around that sort of 6'2 to 6'4, in and around where he is. But it's clear, one, besides the uppercut, the height and the reach was something that he just didn't really have an answer, and his feet were not fast enough to try to get him in good positions. And arguably, I think he didn't use enough head movement, and he made it a little bit easier and as a static target sometimes, with Fury just sort of pot-shotting him, keeping him off with the jab, and then, throwing right hands. But overall, I enjoyed the fight. Tyson Fury, who knows if he'll continue in the heavyweight division, but he retains his title, and he holds it for now. What do you make of it all? Drop a comment, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter. Boxing_squared. I'm out.